Okay, so I'm gonna review or provide some feedback to the video that I have posted in the module, just to give some perspective. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laurent Bannock and I'm the Director of the Institute of Performance Nutrition. And in this Science to Practice overview, I'm going to be focusing on BCAAs and muscle protein synthesis. So skeletal muscle is constantly being turned over, which means it's being synthesized and degraded simultaneously, or effectively created and broken down at the same time. This happens so that the body can get rid of these old proteins and replace them with new ones. But in order to gain muscle mass, protein synthesis rates needs to be...
So I'm going to talk about this graph here that he's using for muscle protein synthesis, muscle protein breakdown. It's a pretty classic representation that's used frequently for this purpose of kind of providing an illustration of kind of optimal protein intakes. And so what you'll hear and with the Lane Norton video, which is below this one in the module, is at the end of that, he recommends 3 to 5 meals of protein per day. And so what this illustrates is, so these dark areas are opportunities for, in essence, anabolism within the realm, the scope of protein balance or protein synthesis and protein breakdown happening together. And so this peak here is muscle protein breakdown. And so that's when you're exercising, after exercise. And so protein synthesis decreases as breakdown increases typically, some exceptions. But then you have this window in which, quote unquote, the nutrition window, in which you can eat and increase muscle protein synthesis and to get it to be, quote unquote, maximal. And so that's what this illustration is trying to represent, and having a greater time spent above protein breakdown. So you have a net increase with muscle protein synthesis being greater over time than muscle protein breakdown.
Be greater than the rates of protein degradation. And if the opposite occurs, well, muscle is going to be lost. And muscle anabolism, or muscle gain, is driven by the stimulation of protein synthesis rather than the inhibition of its breakdown. Although in theory, this could cause anabolism too. So the claims that BCAA supplements increase anabolism seem potentially plausible. But how? How is this possible? Well, firstly, what are BCAAs? And of course, they're amino acids, and there's 20 of them. And 11 of them are non-essential, which means the body can actually make them themselves. But 9 are essential, which means the body cannot make them, cannot be manufactured by the body, and therefore they must acquire them exogenously from the diet or through dietary supplements. And of those 9 essential amino acids, 3 of which are what is called the branch chain amino acids. And these are isoleucine, leucine, and valine. Now, the claims that are being made for branch chain amino acids are that they can increase protein synthesis, they can decrease protein breakdown, and they can even increase lean mass. But what actually is the evidence behind this? How can they substantiate their claims for this? Well, this is largely based on the branch chain amino acid leucine, and research shows that leucine activates proteins that initiate muscle protein synthesis. And research on rats showing that the infusion of branch chain amino acids does increase rates of muscle protein synthesis. And this means that rats likely have an ample amino acid pool to permit their translation to muscle proteins. Branch chain amino acids in humans can activate muscle protein synthesis. However, they cannot sustain translation. And this is because branch chain amino acids alone do not provide all of the essential amino acids, and humans do not have big enough of an amino acid pool in the post-absorptive state to support increased muscle protein synthesis rates. So there we have it. the evidence tells us that significant increases in muscle protein synthesis in the post-absorptive state requires all of the amino acids to be present. And why is that? Well, the only source of essential amino acids in the post-absorptive state is from muscle protein breakdown. And about 70% of these essential amino acids are released by muscle protein breakdown and reincorporated into muscle protein. But branched-chain amino acids cannot significantly increase reincorporation of essential amino acids into muscle. And since branched-chain amino acids can also inhibit muscle protein breakdown, this causes even less amino acids to be available for muscle protein synthesis. And so for this fundamental reason, a dietary supplement of branched-chain amino acids alone cannot support a sustained increase in muscle protein synthesis.
So one of the aspects, he brought up leucine as far as one of the branched chain amino acids being important for this process. Leucine has a unique role in increasing insulin secretion. And so as leucine content goes up, insulin secretion will go up. It's a similar mechanism to glucose. When you consume glucose, insulin goes up. And so the role of that hormone, the role of insulin, is to clear the blood of macronutrients, fatty acids, glucose, and amino acids. The bloodstream is not a good place to store fuel or substrate. And so insulin's role is to, let's get that out of the tissue. And so it's anabolic, so it's going to grow. It's going to be used or stored wherever adipocytes, myocytes, wherever it's going to get used. And so leucine is similar. It will increase muscle protein synthesis, decrease breakdown, and so branched-chain amino acids are elicit an anabolic response. However, it's only, as he said, it's to trigger the start of muscle protein synthesis or inhibit to some extent muscle protein breakdown, with the outcome, as long as there are enough essential amino acids available to enhance anabolism, enhance growth, enhance muscle mass.
So what are the take-home messages from the evidence on this topic? Well, firstly, the claims that branched-chain amino acids alone increase muscle anabolism in humans are not evidence-based. And specific amino acids, and namely leucine, may act as an anabolic trigger, but they will not, or it will not result in sustained muscle protein synthesis unless a full complement of amino acids are available for translation. So this means that consuming a complete protein such as whey is much more effective for stimulating and sustaining muscle protein synthesis rates, resulting in anabolism. Therefore, the claims that BCAAs alone cause muscle anabolism are untrue. And this is because it is not physiologically possible for this to happen for reasons that I've just explained. So you need to read more into this, and the main paper that I've based this presentation off is this one, which you can easily access. It's open access. Branched-chain amino acids and muscle protein synthesis in humans, Myth or Reality, by Professor Robert Wolf. He is pretty much the world's leading expert on this topic, so that is...
And this is the paper that's in one of the lists for this class.
Is an essential evidence base for you to get your information from on this topic. I also recommend listening to a number of podcasts that I've done on related areas, including these two, with the first one here, Protein Supplementation and Resistant Exercise Training, with Dr. Rob Morton, where we discuss this very topic, as well as Protein and Update with Professor Stu Phillips and Professor Kevin Tipton, world leading experts on anything to do with protein and amino acids and exercise adaptations, are both highly recommended.
So for kind of this video and kind of this topic, it gets some of the questions in class were pertain to some specific scenarios. And so there may be a situation where somebody's taking branched amino acids. And so, using them will elicit it, like you said, trigger muscle protein synthesis. And so, for if somebody's pursuing some examples of when might be a good time, if you're on a lower carbohydrate diet and you want to stimulate muscle protein synthesis or minimize, put the brakes on muscle protein breakdown, it might be worthwhile to take those with your meal post workout. So if you do a shake, add them to your shake, or make sure your shake has adequate amounts of branched chain amino acids to get the response, the endocrine response, to minimize muscle protein breakdown, that process, and to enhance muscle protein synthesis. So to get an insulin response from the pancreas. Anyway, so that's on branched chain amino acids. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Send them either to me via email, Canvas, or text via phone or whatever service you want to use, or email, and or the discussion for the class. Anyway, thank you, and talk to you soon. Hope things are making somewhat sense, and I'll do more of these to provide hopefully some perspective that's beneficial.